Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for another spoiler review, another Christmas movie spoiler review. Happy Christmas Eve. It's a little late. I well, I did a lot today. I actually went back earlier this morning to go see Spider-Man No Way Home again. My second time seeing it in a theater. Everybody I knew seen it twice, and I was like, I gotta see it twice too, because I really wanted to go back to see it again. It was really still really good. I just want to soak in that, just all that again. But when I got back, do some cleaning and everything like that, and then prepare myself for some more, at least a couple of more movies on the docket before Christmas shows up, so I can review and put out on the channel. Right now, I will be reviewing Four Christmases, starring Vince Vaughn and Reese Witherspoon, directed by Seth Gordon. And you forget, how much of a star-studded cast this is. Now, I'm not sure. It's not one of the high-tier Christmas classics that people always put up on their list of like their favorites kind of situation. Hell, even some people out there put Jim Carrey's Grinch movie as their in their top favorites of Christmas movies to go watch every year. This is actually, a not bad. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's people out there who actually like Four Christmases. I wanted to put it on the list because there's so much that I wanted to dive into about this, as far as like the relationships and families, because that's what Christmas is supposed to be all about, like families, and it's some wacky little hijinks when it comes to these four different families, and I imagine there's gonna be somebody who can relate to any one of these circumstances. But yeah, this is directed by Seth Gordon, who also directed, I think this is his first, he did documentaries prior to this, but this is actually his first feature film, because Vince Vaughn, brought him in after he watched Gordon's documentary, The King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters. And I honestly didn't know he also directed the first Horrible Bosses movie, which I love that, and I did a video of that, a spoiler review video of that on my channel, so definitely check that out. Follow me in the links in the description, but yeah, directly to youtube.com/talkativecarl and check out my spoiler review of Horrible Bosses 1 and 2. He also directed Identity Thief and the 2017 Baywatch movie. So he only had 4 actual feature-length theatrical films underneath his belt. And he's from Illinois, which is nice. It's like Evanston, Illinois, but Illinois brethren nonetheless. And because he only had just a few directorial feature films underneath his belt, I think documentaries can be feature length thing. I mean, just theatrical films, you know what I mean, underneath his belt. I did not notice he had because I seen Identity Thief. I didn't watch Baywatch, but I saw Identity Thief once. I seen. I think this is maybe the 4th time I seen Four Christmases, but I seen Horrible Bosses a dozen times. I love that freaking film. I love the Horrible Bosses 1 and 2. But he had a particular style that I did not notice until I rewatched this. And Seth Gordon, if you've seen any one of these 4 films, you can tell there's a bare minimum a 3-act structure, similar to how he apparently does his documentaries. I haven't seen any of his documentaries, but upon looking it up, it looks like and the films that I've seen corroborate this. He has a 3-act. He always does 3-act structures, minimum in his films. This, and in this movie's case, it's four, because it's four Christmases. You're going to see four different families, and of course, from remembering Identity Thief, there is like, at least it's been a while. Only seen it once, because you get to see the life of Jason Bateman and then Melissa McCarthy's thing, and yeah, I think that once they're together, you see like that'll be a third act structure technically, I guess. But yeah, and you get to see a three act structure in Horrible Bosses between Charlie Day, Jason Bateman, and Jason Sudeikis thing. So yeah, which is, yeah, it's pretty dope. A nice little, like, every director has their own thing, but yeah, the movie begins where you see Vince Vaughn, his character's name. Let me go. Vince Vaughn's character is playing like Bradford Brad McVee, formerly known as Orlando McVee, which we'll get into as a why later. Reese Witherspoon plays Kate Kincaid. And then later on, Robert Duvall, who plays Brad's father, Howard McVee. Brad's mom, Paula, played by Sissy Spacek. John Voight plays Kate's father, Crichton Kincaid. Mary Steenburgen, which we just did like a movie spoiler review the other day with her in it, plays Marilyn Kincaid. Kristen Kenilworth as Courtney, the sister to Kate. Jon Favreau as Denver McVee, and Tim McGraw as Dallas McVee, the brothers for Brad. Katie Mixon, husband to Denver, Susan McVee. Dwight Yoakam plays Pastor Phil, the new beau of Marilyn. And then, of course, you got two of the aunts of Kate. Aunt Sarah, played by Carol Kane, and Aunt Donna, played by Colleen Camp. So, yeah. And of course, there's other people involved who, fill out the rest of the roles. I just put out the major ones that's, like, of note. Yeah, so you meet Brad and Kate in this, bar. It's kind of lounge, high end kind of bar situation. They, it's pretty much like you wouldn't tell at first, because they doing like, I guess some couples, do this kind of thing to like spice up their love life by playing the role of like people just meet each other at like a bar thing. So he pulls this whole Clark Kent kind of glasses and act, dweebish. Then she blows him off, rudely, and then as soon as she like walks away, he just, gets all confident and assertive, like, "Hey, bitch, I'm talking to you," just like having the whole crowd staring. And then they started making out in the middle of the dance floor, and like, having sex in the women's bathroom. So it's kind of like, they just role playing essentially. And they hanging out with their couple friends, at this, dance class. And, they going off about the subject about like, marriage and kids, which they are immediately turned off by the subject, given the fact that they have like a very, I guess, traumatizing upbringing, each respectively. And they just, in full agreement, they just not only avoid wanting to get married, but avoid having kids, because they don't want to, as they put it, repeat the cycle. Which, we looking at it. I mean, when you reach a certain age, you can see this, because I don't think I appreciate it, because this movie came out in 2008, I believe it's 2008 when this came out. Yeah, November 2008 when this movie came out. And it's like, a little over 10 years ago. So I would have been like in my early 20s. I probably wouldn't have appreciated the nuances about, well, maybe I, had like a somewhat understanding of where they're coming from, but, you appreciate it, as, time went on. The fact that, I don't personally agree. Personally, I think, like, if you with your significant other, or at least you get together with somebody, like man, woman, girl, or boy. If you with somebody for like, because they've been together for at least 3 years at this point, and in my opinion, bare minimum, if you're with somebody for a bare minimum 2 years, especially if you're living together, by that point, a guy should, if he had any kind of sense, he would understand. It's like somewhere between 2 to 3 years. That should be like in general how guys should be. Like, okay, I actually want to, like, we've been through like all these holidays, family gatherings. We smell each other's farts and seeing each other in the bathroom and our discussing moments and just like, all the fun stuff and the gross stuff and the bad stuff. And like, we still together. By that point, bare minimum 2 years, max 3, you should be like, like, yeah, this is a person I want to be with for the rest of my life kind of situation. So you should be, in that mind space, at least in the ballpark area. But they just don't want to have none of it. I mean, like, you'll see as to why they, feel that way. It's just like, the way you raise kids determines how they're obviously, their adulthood going to turn out. As once you see how their families, act, you'll see where they're, how that affected them. So, every year, for 3 years they've been together, they always travel during the Christmas holidays just to avoid having to visit their families. And oddly enough, I kind of freaking respected it. Even like, it's probably one of my favorite parts of this film. The fact that the elaborate schemes and lies they have to pull, like really the time they took. They didn't pull this out of their head. They actually took the time to come up with, kind of convincing lies, which I kind of freaking respect. Like, Brad actually had to learn a different language just to sell it, because they come up with like, we're inoculating babies in Tijuana or something like that, and it's like he actually learned a different language, at least just to say Merry Christmas. Even though it's like obviously most of the family members like don't buy it, but the fact that like I freaking respected it. It's like like, if you tell a lie, put some effort into it. That's what, like, at least I can at least respect it. It's like, you tell enough of a lie, where it's like, just enough where no one won't be nitpicking it, but just don't make it like a big old Superman kind of story. Just tell it, just a right balance between vague and detail enough where it's like, it's plausible. But then again, it's kind of like the flip side of that. It's been 3 years and you always be out of the country around that time. You would think that, because it's like last minute calling, letting, the parents know that they won't be able to make it, to see them this Christmas. And it's like, yes, this kind of thing you should be like, letting them know like a month ahead of time, so that way they won't be like asking like at the last minute, or at least you won't have to be making all these crazy calls while you're trying to pack on the day. So they're planning on going to Fiji this year, and because they live in San Francisco, they're at the airport, and this crazy fog, starts rolling in and kind of like closing a lot of gates to a lot of uh, you know, planes, going out of the country. And then it's like, this news crew who, for some reason reporting about like this, crazy fog. And they, it's like, why is it like a big story? Because like they treat it like it's a huge story, like, there's the storm of the century kind of thing, where it's just like, planes get grounded because of bad weather all the time. And it's like, it's weird. And then this reporter comes up to Brad and Kate, who's uh uh who's not grilling, but kind of like, getting into with one of the ticket handlers, or not a ticket handler, but it's like those people who like sets up the flight when they're trying to find like, is there another flight out kind of situation. And I kind of like the exchange between him and Brad when he mentioned about like, oh, we have we have a sister flight, but that won't leave until blah blah blah. It's like, do you have a cousin flight? What about like a person that felt you up at summer camp? You got that kind of flight? It's just like that was a legit funny exchange. I cracked up at that every time. So the person going and interview Kate, full on display with camera crew and everything like that. Well, just one guy in the camera, but it's like you don't even bother to like ask would they want to be on camera or not. You just like shoved it in their faces. It's like now they their faces are plastered, and like being asked about like, oh, all the planes are grounded, what are you going to be doing for Christmas now? And they're just looking all stunned. Now they busted, so now they have to go visit their families for Christmas. And I'm thinking to myself, not necessarily. You're two grown-ass adults. You don't have to go visit your family if you do not want to. They got their own lives and stuff like that. It's like you just don't freaking feel like. I mean, you could have avoided all this. I mean, will it be an asshole thing to do, especially around the holidays? Sure, but it's your prerogative. They're not going to send you to your room or anything like that. It's like you don't feel like it. You want to spend it at home kind of situation. But, they go ahead on, but then they, start talking about like, making up a safe word, like, they come with mistletoe when like things get too hot, like, and they need the exit strategy to get out of this, any uncomfortable situations. So they visit Brad's father and his brothers first. And, Tim McGraw and John Favreau's characters, who are, not USC fighters traditionally. They don't get paid. They kind of like, as he describes it, fight in people's yards and post them on YouTube kind of situation. But I think like Vince Vaughn actually kind of worked out a little bit for this role, because he's like, got some muscle, got a bit of muscle mass here. You see, notice how things like change over time. It's, this was made in 2008. And they like, start wrestling, like doing wrestling moves in the middle of the room, just completely embarrassing him, and just like on the ground, like, doing like, trying to do all different pins on him. And that's when it was brought up about his actual name. His name is Orlando, while one's Dallas and one's Denver. And this kind of surprises Kate, because she never knew his actual name. He always been going by Brad for as long as he knew him. And they had like a private conversation, like, why'd you lie to me? You never told me, like, because I had it changed. And they had like a, kind of like a bit of an argument about that, which I can see both sides to it. Yes, I agree with Kate for the most part that, it's been together for 3 years. At some point would have brought it up that you probably had a name change. But it's like, but I can see on Brad's side, it's like kind of something that's like extremely personal, kind of. Well, it's like if you with some girl like for 3 years, it's like, you know, I'm pretty sure you would get personal with your significant other, even with something this deep. But it's his secret to tell, and it's deep personal. He didn't like the name, and that kind of, it's like a focal point back to something in his childhood he did not like. So of course, as soon as he could, he changed the name legally. So legally, his name is Brad. And like as he pointed out, like if I grow up, my name is asshole, like, and I change it to Brad, I don't walk up to somebody and tell them, hey, my name used to be asshole, but my name is Brad now. He has a point. I mean, fairly, like I said, I see both sides to this situation, but at some point he should have brought it up, to be fair. But it's like, it's his secret. I mean, like, but it's not saying like, one's a winner, one's a loser in this kind of argument. It's just like they're both right in a way. But Brad should have just told her at some point. It's not like a huge, thing. He acts like the name represents, like, he's treating it like, like it's a huge secret, like he had, buried 3 bodies as a child or something like that in his parents' backyard kind of situation. He's treating it like it's on that kind of scale of like a harsh secret that I just decided just to keep from everybody, including any significant other. But then you see, like, Robert Duvall's character, like, Howard, who apparently, him and his wife divorced because he's just like one of those grumpy, old timers who, those kind of fathers that's like, very like ultra, man, like kind of like, nose of the grindstone, kind of like, like the way he talks about his ex, who Brad shine a light on the situation. You stop spending time with her. You didn't give her attention. Like you didn't service her emotional needs. As a significant other would. But in Howard's mind, it's enough just putting food on the table and a roof over her head. I've done my husbandly duties. That is all. And that's just not enough. I mean, like, any decent guy would tell you that's not cutting it. A woman or a man, what they want from their boyfriends is the complete package. It's like, you gotta service them emotionally if need be. If they're feeling sad, a roof over their head or food in their belly is not gonna, solve the issue. If they come home with they're having a bad day, they need comfort, you have to fulfill that emotional need. That's obvious. That's, any sensible person would tell you that. And like, he just one of those guys. It's like, he's like, he probably grew up in that era when that kind of thing was just like, that's just how it is. And I mean, I'm pretty sure he was in that era where guys is like willingly, smack a woman and nobody, says it. I'm pretty sure he's, kind of like the way Sean Connery's Bond was, when like he just, just very, like very male chauvinistic kind of attitude. Obviously, probably he's not the guy. He doesn't come across as like a guy who would hit his woman or any woman, but it's just the male chauvinist tendencies where it's like, I don't need to feel any emotional support. It's kind of thing that's a ladies thing, not a man thing. Men don't show emotion kind of situation. And he's just kind of crotchety. And it was like a funny moment where it's like, when Vince Vaughn, I keep going to say Vince Vaughn, Brad, who, started bringing over gifts for Dallas's kids and something for the father, and like they just give him grief because like he got at that time it was he had brought in like the brand new Xbox 360. It was around that time when that was the top of the line console, and that kind of thing kind of like probably put like the brothers in the mood because like they don't have like a high paying job like Brad does to afford something like that, so it kind of makes them look bad. But it's like that's the thing between them. It's like they obviously care for their brother, but it's like they make fun of him for having like an education and a great job, and you can see like Brad's outlook on like he doesn't want to just be in this environment. As soon as he was old enough, he was ready like to be out and like just avoid this crap, because every time they see him they always get into like wrestling matches which he doesn't want to be involved in. But then like Dallas's wife holding her baby girl, and talking about like does about breastfeeding and everything like that, and then she hands Denver hands the baby over to Brad, which Brad holds the baby for a while, but this gives like Kate starts giving like a look like when you see like when a girl sees her man holding like a baby very nurturingly, they kind of sets things off. There's like a like a glint in her eye when she notices something like that. It's like, oh, that's cute kind of situation. But then they visit Kate's mom's house, and this is probably my favorite part out of the entire film, when they visit Kate's mother's house, who she is divorced as well and has a new boyfriend, Pastor Phil, who Kate's sister always has like a joke about how like every time she goes with some new guy, she kind of like a chameleon, just takes on the same fascinations or interests of that person, and she goes full on with it. So because Jesus and Christian stuff all down near all over the place, and she even got like a Jesus statue right out in front of her house, which kind of surprises Kate because she never seen that before. But as they're about to go in, Kate warns Brad like it's a bit of a cougar den, so like mind yourself. And then like there's a funny moment when like the grandmother is trying like pull on Brad's belt, and it's like easy, grandma. It's like that still attached me, and she like oh, I get it, and then she winks at him, and it's like that was a funny moment because like they all surrounding Brad. He's like he's a tall guy in kind of situation, so it's like they all like just converge around his orbit, and they it's a funny one when it's like they bring up about this bounce house, and Kate has a traumatic history as a kid dealing with a bounce house where a bunch of kids trapped her in the bounce house, and hardly anybody wanted to play with her since kindergarten up till 6th grade, because she was known as Cootie Kate. And somebody called her Cootie Kate one time, and no one wants to be around her, and they kind of dogpiled on her in the bounce house for like a solid hour. She was trapped there, so she got like a whole thing. And then she started seeing, another funny moment when like Brad is seeing all the baby pictures that they are showing him, and the Kate as a baby, she's like very like a large baby, and then she they showed one of Kate's high school friends. I forgot the woman's name, but clearly she's a lesbian. Given like her outer appearance, and it's kind of obvious, but everybody was in on it except for Kate. Kate was the only one that's clueless about like her Joe. That was the girl's name. It was like Joe, I think it was, Joe or Bo. But while that was going on, Kate, got curious about her sister's little blonde, because she has a kid, a daughter, who's like 8 or so, and like the sister obviously wants another one, and then she sees goes through her sister things and found this pregnancy test, and then she just want to pee on it, see like just what it feels like kind of situation. The little girl comes in and thing is like a magic marker that the mom doesn't want her to have or in the house, and she takes it, runs into the bounce house while Kate's giving chase, and then going through that traumatic thing is always it's freaking her out kind of situation. He has like a clear phobia at this point, and the only way to get that kid to let go, and it's completely embarrassing to the kid, but it's funny as hell. It's like, I peed on that because the kid had it in her freaking mouth like an idiot, and then like she like just kind of like this, like, it was so freaking funny, and but then her and Brad had his powwow in the hallway where he makes fun of her about her relationship with Joe, and it's like I'm not gonna worry about it. It's like you had a little lesbian moment back in the day. That's all right with me. If that was your journey, that led you to me, that's fine. I'm good with that. It's like Joe wasn't gay. We was just best friends. We had this little game we play in the basement where we pretend like we on on the beach, and she rub lotion rub lotion on me. Is the look Vaughn gave her, and then the light, you can see the light bulb go in her head, and she like when she like ends her sentence, and then she starts to think, and it was hilarious. That's what I'm saying. This whole part right here, the whole cougar den situation, my favorite part of their entire trip. It's so funny, but then he starts like getting back at her. It's like, yeah, see, you gave me all that shit with the Orlando stuff, but people who lives in glass houses, who people shouldn't throw stones in if they live in the house of Joe. And which he has a point. It's like, you did give him a lot of shit for that, and it's just funny that he got some fun to tease her right back. Then they start to go visit Brad's mom, and this one is like kind of intense. I mean, like they had like a bit of an argument on the way there, but it was in regards of them going to church services to see Pastor Phil, and they did this whole nativity scene where Brad's kind of rocking the house, and kind of like as Kate put it, made it all about him and pushing her to the side. When she fell, he didn't bother to like help assist her or anything like that. He just like soaking it in, just kind of like just the fun of it. And when you see like Brad's mom, she like very hippie kind of lifestyle kind of situation, a very stark contrast to that Tonka truck kind of, you know, hard, grizzled, Robert Duvall kind of attitude, you know, from her former husband. And like her new boyfriend just happens to be very awkwardly and weirdly, you know, Brad's former childhood friend, who's like, and this dude is goofy looking, and the fact that, and it's like, as Brad points out, it's like, you cannot act like my best friend while you're banging my mom. You know, our friendship ended, you know, a long time ago. And it's like he represents that kind of attitude, like every newbie stepdad, you know, a very stereotypical newbie stepdad is trying to, like, you know, have a powwow with, you know, the you know, mom's child, trying to like get along with him, you know, that kind of thing. And it comes across as awkward because he's talking to a full grown man, you know, probably the same age as him, and he's talking like that, which it might be funny to some, but it was like dumb as hell. And like Brad has a point, and it's kind of like, you know, Kate is just like sitting there like awkwardly, like, what did I just walk into? And this kind of explains why, you know, he never wanted to visit his mother, because this dude was here, and he doesn't want to be like reminded that his own childhood friend is banging his mom. That's not something like anybody wants to even know that they bang somebody's, you know, that's like a very Pornhub bullshit. You know, it's like, I don't know how often that even, you know, happens. It's possible, yes, that, you know, a childhood friend you grew up with somehow, like, you know, at some point hook up with maybe a friend's mom. Not saying that probably doesn't happen, because it's possible. That is more feasible. But to actually date, you know, for an extended period of time with that person, that, I don't know how often that actually is a thing. It might be there, billions of people around the world, shit happens, but that is just like bizarre. And and I mean, but this, you know, beyond that, this kind of like feeds into more the, you know, Brad and Kate's relationship. You know, how like they actually do not know each other as well as, you know, they should at this point in their relationship, because Denver and his wife come stop by, and all three couples play what's that board game where like you gotta guess a word on the list, but not say, you know, 5 of the other words that's on that list below it. I forgot what it's called, but you know what I'm talking about. And, you know, you see like how, you know, Brad's mom and his ex-best friend are just, you know, just nailing at least a few of those words. And you see Denver and his wife just nailing everything in like quick pace order. And you can see like they know each other. I'm kind of impressed. And like Denver and his wife, you know, as awkward as they are, you know, as a couple, they're like a solid team. Which is like, I mean, they kind of make out very grossly, but you know, it's like, you know, people connect under like, same interests and like, you know, same kind of, you know, mentality or emotions or, you know, certain actions or like interests and stuff like that. It kind of like, you know, they blend well. And like these two are like this, man, which, you know, as awkward as they behave, they're a solid team. They are like, you know, solid, solid rocks here. And when it's Kate and Brad's turn, they have no clue how to like, you know, do this, because like, you know, Kate's asking him like, you know, you know, the place that we was at when I wore that bikini. And it's like, you know, and it's like, and he's just saying stuff, and it's like, you know, none of it matched, and it's like, it's kind of like, you know, upsets Kate because the fact that like, you know, you don't know me at all. It's like, you know, it's like we've been together for 3 years. You just like, I don't know your name, you know, you don't know my interests, this kind of thing. Because for the longest time they just been like, you know, just a couple just on like surface level kind of situation almost. It's like, you know, we just have fun together. They just do things to have fun. They don't want to do anything like, you know, get too serious in the nitty gritty of the relationship. They just want to have fun and avoid, you know, this, you know, like I said, the seriousness of being in a relationship, which means getting to know one another, the good and the bad. You know, you get to know their families because, you know, as like the brothers point out, you know, when Brad's getting like shamed about like buying this cool, hey, Merry Christmas, Daniel. When, you know, they give him the riot act because he didn't know there was some kind of spending cap at all. But as the brothers point out, like if you visit a whole lot more, you'll know what's going on. Oh no, it's the father who pointed that out. If you visit a lot more, you'll know what's the rules are here, or at least how we do things here. So, I mean, you know, they were assholes for, you know, shaming him for, you know, getting like a decent gift for his nephews. But, you know, then again, if Brad would have showed up a whole lot more, if he just asked or, you know, what have you, he probably would have been more knowledgeable. But, you know, after this whole 3 houses they visited so far, you know, Kate and Brad just like, you know, really going at each other. And by the time they head to the final house, was, you know, meeting Kate's father, at that point it's like, you know, you don't have to come in, you know, we shouldn't be even doing this anymore. So she goes inside. Brad goes back to his father's house, and you know, Jon Voight playing her father expressed to her about like, you know, how he was already hip to the idea of what they was doing with all the lies because he pulled that same stunt himself, and he brings it to her attention that, you know, I pulled that same stuff because I stopped wanting to be around my family at when I was at a certain age, and right now I'm regretting the time that I wishing I got the time back now. You know, all the time that I lost, I wish I got back. And, you know, informing her that, you know, as much as annoying, you know, families can be sometimes, and like, it's you know, especially around the holidays, it's annoying, or like it's just like a hassle. I mean, you can still have fun. I mean, it's like, it's just very like rare. I won't say rare, but, you know, every once in a while you get like, like annoyances by family members. But it's the flip effect is like, those are the kind of things that you probably remember most later in life that you grow to appreciate. And at least somewhat, depending on the situation at hand. But then Brad goes back to his father, you know, saying like, "Oh, me and Kate broke up. Like, that's my boy." You know, it's like, you know, it's kind of like he proud because, I forgot to mention this. You know, earlier in the film, Brad telling his, him and Kate's friends that you can't spell lie without family. And like, you know, it's kind of like that thing he picked up from his own father, who says it on top of the roof while they fixing up the, you know, satellite dish that he got him for Christmas. He took notice. It's like, you know, when you've been around bad habits, because Brad and Kate had been around bad habits, you know, because of their parents and, you know, they're being child or divorced, that affects a kid, and in turn affects how they approach relationships as they got older. It's very clear as day, you know, cause and effect shoved in your face. Well, not shoved in your face, but if you look at it, you know, you can tell that, you know, I think like Howard is probably like the worst, you know, parent out of the bunch. I mean, everybody's for the most part, is very decent people, despite the certain awkwardness or behaviors. Like despite the annoyances of the brothers who might pick on him, the youngest brother, but still was out of love. And despite and because he spent more time with the mom, because as the mom puts it, he's more the sensitive one, but she is very nurturing. Kate's father is more understanding, and the mom is very nurturing herself. But that guy is just like very hard-headed, stubborn individual, doesn't obviously want to learn anything from his mistakes. And the one gripe I have about this movie is that we don't see, it's probably maybe like a deleted scene or something, if there was because I don't have a DVD of this. I watched this on HBO Max, so I feel like there was a crucial scene that was missed, because after Brad walks into the house, when his father's praising him for like being a man and not letting this woman, I guess like, being like a ball and chain or like whatever kind of attitude. And like then in the next scene, he goes back to Kate's father's house and he reconciles with Kate, acknowledging that like, yeah, I actually am open to marriage with you. I'm actually am open to children. I mean, he took the first step, and this is like a good thing on his part. But I think there was a missing scene where he realizes, hearing like, because I'm pretty sure there's like a deleted scene. I'm having like a Mandela effect right now, but I'm pretty sure there's a deleted scene from like a DVD copy of this that I might have saw, that Brad's father rambling off about how like he puts all the fault on his ex-wife, and like none of it is his fault. He did everything right. He doesn't want to acknowledge any fault on his own, and in how he's raising it, especially how he's raising his children, and like as far as like the lack of nurture involved in the raising the children. And he had boys, so he raised boys to be like amazing men, and it's like that's how you gotta be. It's like none of that sissy crap attitude kind of situation. And you can tell that Brad, acknowledging the fact that he's picking up on that same cues, he's turning into the very man he wanted to avoid the most, with the spouting the same rhetoric, and like shutting off the woman he cares most about, just like his father did, and it ended up driving him ways, became bitter, and probably more grizzled than better. But it's like he's bitter both, and Brad doesn't want to turn out like that, so he's making a very hard change. And so I mean, like I enjoy that kind of stuff. I'm not sure how high does people put this movie as their a favorite Christmas movie, but I always wanted to put this out there because I put it on the list mostly because I wanted a Vince Vaughn movie. But I figured it was coming around the holidays, and I'm like, what, if I want to do a Vince Vaughn movie to review, this one probably not I think at least out of all the Vince Vaughn movies, I think like this is probably at least a good number 2. 2 or 3 on the list, because not many Vince Vaughn movies that like really stick out for me, but this is like one I actually enjoyed. But since it's around holidays, I figured like throw this on the list. This is like something that I really wanted to discuss as far as relationship wise and the nuances involved in here, and like as far as like it being about family, that's something that I really want to discuss, because if you see this movie, you get to see a different aspect of families that you have or that you witness firsthand, and it's like you can like you get some kind of understanding. Now after this whole ordeal was over, this 4 Christmas trips, a year later, Brad and Kate have a little girl. It was a New Year's Day baby, first baby of the new year, and as the nurse comes in and saying like, oh, your families can like come visit now. Like, oh, they don't know we have a kid, which is weird. Like, at no point in the 9 months you visited Kate. Like Kate and Brad don't visit and the family members. Like, I guess they figure like, okay, we visited them. And it's like it's no way, and we're dragging dragging our butts back to that again, kind of attitude. But it's a funny moment where like I don't think it's the same camera crew, but I'm pretty sure it is, and they come in without permission from the doctors, because only people who are allowed in these things are family members, and they just bum rush in and shove a camera in their face and asking about like, how's it feel to have the first baby of the new year? And then they looking at the camera like all dumbfounded, and then now they're busted. Now they go, so on another adventure, and that's when the movie ends. I mean, it's not a bad movie. Like I said, it's like a very middle of the road movie. Some people might not feel like it's their cup of tea, but it's a decent movie. It's like you can see it like maybe once or twice, and like get a feel for if it's like your speed. But it's like just like a pretty fun comedy. I don't know if you can classify it as a romantic comedy. They're already together, but it's just like a family comedy. And it's just like one of the fun Vince Vaughn films. But if you've seen Four Christmases before, let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts? Is there certain things that you like about it that I didn't bring up, or is there anything that if you've seen this, is there anything that didn't really that you didn't really like about it? And where would you put this on your favorite Christmas list if it is one of your favorite Christmas movies on your list? If it is, tell me why. If it's not, it's fine. But I'm gonna prepare for my next Christmas movie review in like a few minutes. So I will see you guys in a little bit. Be safe. Take care.